The revolution nobody saw coming because it whispered. You know what nobody tells you about making a difference? That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying so hard. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Keisha Holloway, and I'm going to be honest with you, this conversation changed something in me. Keisha is not the kind of leader who shows up with a bullhorn and a 10-point plan to save the world. She doesn't need that. Through her work with the Soft Girl Era podcast and her unwavering commitment to creating spaces where Black professionals can breathe, rest, and reclaim their softness, she's proving that transformation doesn't have to be loud to be life changing. In fact, sometimes the quietest revolutions are the ones that reshape entire communities. Keisha is rewriting the rules on what it means to lead, to care, and to show up for people in a world that has convinced us that exhaustion is a badge of honor. And what she shared with me, it's the kind of wisdom that makes you want to sit down, take a breath, and rethink everything you thought you knew about strength, leadership, and care. So let's talk about it. Because here's the thing, we live in a world that worships the grind, the hustle, the loud, aggressive, never stop moving kind of effort that leaves you exhausted, depleted, and wondering if any of it even mattered. We've been taught that if you're not forcing it, you're not doing enough. That if you're not bleeding for it, it doesn't count. That rest is a luxury and softness is a weakness. That if you're not collapsing under the weight of your own ambition, you're not really committed. But Keisha reminded me of something we've all forgotten. You do not have to force impact to make a difference. Let me say that again because I need you to really hear it. You do not have to force impact to make a difference. Quiet consistency, thoughtful care, and clear intention can be just as powerful, if not more powerful, than loud, aggressive effort. And honestly, that's the kind of revolution we need right now. Think about it. How many of us have been running on fumes, trying to prove our worth by doing more, carrying more, being more, until we collapse under the weight of it all? How many of us have confused exhaustion with excellence? How many of us have been taught that strength means never asking for help, never slowing down, never admitting that we're tired? How many of us have worn our burnout like a medal as if it somehow proves we care more than everyone else? Too many, way too many. And that's exactly why the work Keisha's doing matters so much because she's not just talking about rest as some Instagram worthy concept. She's talking about rest as survival, softness as strategy, care as leadership. She's talking about the kind of rest that saves lives, the kind of softness that builds empires, the kind of care that transforms entire communities. Let me tell you about a conversation that happened on the Soft Girl Era podcast, one that perfectly captures what I'm talking about. Leanne Dolce, the host, sat down with Charity Hudson to talk about rest, release, and reclaiming softness. And what they discussed wasn't fluffy. It wasn't some feel good, surface level chat about self care Sundays and bubble baths. It was real, it was raw, it was necessary. They talked about the strong Black woman schema. You know the one. The narrative that says Black women are supposed to carry the world on their shoulders without breaking a sweat. The one that equates strength with silence, resilience with overfunctioning, and care with self sacrifice. The one that has left so many women emotionally exhausted, psychologically distressed, and wondering why they feel like they're drowning even though they're doing everything right. The one that says asking for help is weakness, that rest is laziness, that softness is surrender. And here's what Charity Hudson said that stopped me in my tracks. When Black women challenge that narrative, when they allow themselves to seek support, when they stop confusing overfunctioning with strength, they reduce psychological distress and depressive symptoms. Not metaphorically, not eventually, measurably. Immediately let that sink in for a second. Support reduces distress, care improves well being. Rest is not a reward for productivity, it's a requirement for survival. It's not something you earn after you've done enough. It's something you need in order to keep going at all. And yet, how many of us are still running ourselves into the ground because we've been told that's what strength looks like? How many of us are still carrying everything alone because we've been taught that asking for help is weakness? How many of us are still pushing through exhaustion because we've been conditioned to believe that rest is laziness? This is where Keisha's second insight comes in, and it's one that I think could change the way we see people entirely. People often grow best when they are seen for who they can become, not only for where they are right now. Encouragement can be a bridge to confidence, healing, and excellence. But here's the catch: most of us are so busy judging people for where they are that we never give them the space to become who they're meant to be. We see the mistakes, the gaps, the rough edges, and we stop there. We critique, we correct, we criticize, and we wonder why people don't grow. We wonder why they don't thrive. We wonder why they don't step into their full potential. But what if we flip that? What if instead of focusing on what's missing, we started speaking to what's possible? What if we saw people not just for who they are today, but for who they could be tomorrow, next month, next year? What if we treated encouragement not as a nice to have, but as a necessity? What if we understood that the way we see people can actually shape who they become? That's what the Soft Girl Era podcast does. It's a platform designed to empower and inspire Black professionals, business leaders, and entrepreneurs. And it doesn't do that by telling people to hustle harder or grind longer. It does it by creating a space where people can hear messages of encouragement, emotional renewal, and affirmation. A space where softness, restoration, resilience, and emotional honesty are centered as tools for growth. A space where people are reminded that their worth isn't tied to their productivity, their value isn't measured by their output, and their humanity isn't conditional on their performance. Because here's the truth: people don't thrive in environments where they're constantly being told they're not enough. They thrive in environments where they're seen, valued, and believed in, where they're given permission to rest, to heal, to grow at their own pace, where they're reminded that their worth isn't tied to their productivity, where they're told over and over again that they are enough exactly as they are and that they are also capable of becoming more. And that brings me to Keisha's third insight, the one that I think ties everything together. Creating safe, value filled spaces is a form of leadership. When people feel emotionally supported and affirmed, they are more likely to thrive, contribute, and rise into their full potential. This isn't just a nice idea, it's a fact. It's backed by research, by lived experience, by the countless stories of people who have been transformed by spaces that made them feel seen. It's backed by the reality that when people feel safe, they take risks. When people feel valued, they contribute. When people feel affirmed, they grow. The Soft Girl Era podcast is one of those spaces. It's a platform that responds to the pressures many Black professionals face: burnout, emotional labor, the need for spaces that affirm rather than diminish them. And through interviews and conversations, it creates a consistent environment where listeners can exhale, feel valued, and move toward thriving through care and support. It's a space where people can show up as they are, without pretense, without performance, without apology. It's a space where people can rest without guilt, heal without shame, and grow without pressure. That's leadership, not the kind that demands, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that nurtures, the kind that holds space, the kind that says, you don't have to carry this alone, the kind that says your worth is not determined by how much you can carry, the kind that says softness is not weakness, rest is not laziness, and care is not optional. And here's what I love about this: it's not abstract, it's not theoretical, it's practical, it's actionable. It's something every single one of us can do starting today. So let me ask you, what would it look like for you to practice intentional encouragement, to speak life into someone, to create one safer space, to show up with more care than criticism? What would it look like for you to notice who you are becoming, not just what you are producing? To move with more clarity and consistency in how you support yourself and others, to measure your success not by how much you've done, but by how much you've grown. What would it look like for you to replace forcing with nurturing? To choose one small daily action that makes excellence feel possible for yourself or someone else? To stop equating effort with violence and start equating effort with care? Because that's what Keisha wants for all of us. She wants us to feel held, hopeful, and deeply affirmed. She wants us to leave this conversation feeling lighter, calmer, and more confident that softness, care, and consistency can be powerful. She wants us to feel seen, valued, and inspired to keep going with gentleness and purpose. And honestly, I think that's exactly what the world needs right now. We don't need more people running themselves into the ground. We don't need more people confusing exhaustion with excellence. We don't need more people carrying everything alone. We don't need more people wearing their burnout like a badge of honor, as if suffering is the only proof of commitment. We need more people who understand that care is not weakness, that rest is not laziness, that softness is not surrender. We need more people who understand that the most powerful thing you can do is show up consistently with care, with clarity, with intention. We need more people who understand that leadership is not about how loud you are, but about how safe you make people feel. We need more people who are willing to create spaces where others can breathe, heal, and grow, where encouragement is the default, where people are seen for who they can become, not just where they are right now, where softness is celebrated, rest is protected, and care is prioritized. We need more people like Keisha Holloway who are proving every single day that quiet consistency, thoughtful care, and clear intention can change lives. So here's what I want you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, today. I want you to look around and find one person who needs to be seen, one person who's been caring too much for too long, one person who's been told they have to be strong when what they really need is permission to rest. And I want you to speak life into them. I want you to create one safer space for them. I want you to show up with more care than criticism. I want you to notice who you are becoming, not just what you are producing. I want you to move with more clarity and consistency in how you support yourself and others. I want you to replace forcing with nurturing. I want you to choose one small daily action that makes excellence feel possible for yourself or someone else. Because the truth is, you don't have to force impact to make a difference. You just have to show up with care, clarity, and consistency. And trust me, that's more than enough. That's everything. The world doesn't need you to burn out, it needs you to show up consistently, gently, powerfully. So go out there and be that person. Speak life, create space, show care, notice growth, replace force with nurture, choose softness, choose rest, choose care, and watch what happens when you do. Because the revolution nobody saw coming, it's the one that whispered, and it's already here.